I heard them before I saw them. I'd come home 3 hours early from a business trip to Denver because my meetings got canceled. My wife Sarah wasn't expecting me until evening, so I'd planned to surprise her, maybe order her favorite takeout, have a relaxing evening together. I opened the front door quietly, thinking maybe she was napping. That's when I heard it. Sounds coming from upstairs, from our bedroom. Sounds that made my stomach drop and my heart start racing. I stood at the bottom of the stairs for what felt like forever, trying to convince myself I was hearing something else. Maybe she was watching TV. Maybe she was on a phone call. Maybe it was literally anything other than what my gut was telling me it was. But I knew. Somewhere deep down, I knew. I walked up those stairs feeling like I was moving through water, each step heavier than the last. Our bedroom door was partially closed. The sounds were clearer now, unmistakable. I pushed the door open. My wife Sarah was in our bed with Marcus, her best friend Marcus, her gay best friend Marcus. The man I'd welcomed into our home dozens of times. The man I'd never once worried about because he was gay, except apparently he wasn't. My name is David, and this is the story of how I was made a fool of for 3 years by the two people I trusted most, using my own acceptance and trust against me in the most elaborate deception I could have imagined. I met Sarah 5 years ago at a friend's wedding. She was the bride's college roommate, I was the groom's coworker, and we ended up sitting at the same table during the reception. She was beautiful, smart, funny, and we talked all night. By the end of the wedding, I knew I wanted to see her again. We dated for about 1.5 years before I proposed. The relationship felt easy, natural, right? We had similar values, similar goals, and we genuinely enjoyed each other's company. She was supportive of my career in finance. I was supportive of her work as a graphic designer. Everything seemed perfect. We got married in a small ceremony with close friends and family, honeymooned in Greece, and settled into married life in a nice apartment downtown. For the first 1.5 years of our marriage, everything was great. We were happy, at least I thought we were. I met Marcus about 6 months into our marriage. Sarah came home from work one day talking about her new coworker who is absolutely hilarious and so much fun to be around. You're going to love him, she said. He's gay, super fashionable, and has the best stories. We should all hang out sometime. A few weeks later, Sarah invited Marcus over for dinner. From the moment he walked in, he was exactly what I'd expected from Sarah's description: flamboyant, expressive, funny, and very openly gay. He called me hun and sweetie, complimented our apartment's decor, and spent half the evening giving Sarah fashion advice and gossiping about their coworkers. "Girl, you cannot wear that blazer to the presentation," he said to Sarah, flipping his hand dismissively. "It washes you out completely. You need jewel tones with your complexion." I liked him immediately. He was entertaining, seemed to genuinely care about Sarah, and there was something refreshing about having a gay friend in our circle. I'd grown up in a pretty conservative area, and I prided myself on being open-minded and accepting. "Marcus is great," I told Sarah after he left. "I'm glad you have such a good friend at work." She smiled and kissed me. "I told you you'd like him. He's the best." Over the next few months, Marcus became a regular fixture in our lives. He and Sarah would go shopping together on weekends, meet for lunch during work, and text constantly. He'd come over for dinner once or twice a week, and eventually we developed a routine of watching reality TV shows together on Sunday nights. Bachelor night, Marcus would announce, showing up with wine and snacks. He'd sprawl on our couch between Sarah and me, providing running commentary on the contestants that had us both laughing. I never once felt threatened by their friendship. Why would I? He was gay. He'd talk about guys he was dating, would ask my opinion on his outfits for dates, would complain about the lack of good men in the city. There was zero possibility of anything romantic between him and Sarah, or so I thought. Looking back now, I can see how carefully they constructed this facade, how deliberate every interaction was, how they used my trust and my desire to be a supportive, non-jealous husband against me. Marcus would do things that, if he'd been straight, would have been massive red flags. He'd hug Sarah for too long. He'd sit very close to her on the couch. He'd touch her arm or her knee while talking. He'd compliment her appearance constantly. "You look gorgeous today. Babe, that dress is stunning on you. Your hair looks amazing like that." But because he was gay, I interpreted all of it as harmless. Just a gay best friend being supportive and affectionate. I'd even defend their closeness to other people. "Don't you think it's weird how much time Sarah spends with Marcus?" My friend Tom asked once after we'd all gone out for drinks. "He's gay, dude," I say. Like that explained everything. They're just friends. I'm not going to be that insecure husband who gets jealous of his wife's gay best friend. Tom had shrugged and dropped it, but I remember the look on his face like he wanted to say more but didn't know how. Marcus's presence in our lives gave Sarah the perfect cover for an affair. All those times she said she was out with Marcus, she was with Marcus, just not in the way I thought. The shopping trips, the brunches, the girls' nights that Marcus would attend, they were all opportunities for them to be together. And I never suspected a thing because why would I? When Sarah came home from a day out with Marcus, she'd show me what they'd bought, tell me funny stories about their adventures, maybe share some gossip about mutual friends. It all seemed so innocent. Marcus and I are going to that new brunch place on Saturday. She'd say, he wants to try their bottomless mimosas. Have fun, I'd reply, kissing her forehead. Tell Marcus I said hi. We're going to watch a movie at Marcus's place tonight. She'd text, don't wait up. Enjoy. I'd respond, happy that she had such a close friend. Sometimes Marcus would text me to keeping up the illusion, taking your wife shopping. Hope that's okay, hun. Borrowing Sarah for brunch. Promise to return her in one piece. Having a Netflix marathon with Sarah. She says hi. These messages made me feel included, like I was part of their friendship, not excluded from it. It never occurred to me that they were calculated, designed specifically to make me feel comfortable and Marcus Stevie went on vacation with us once, a trip to Miami for my birthday. I'd suggested we invite him because I thought it would be fun to have a larger group, and Sarah had been thrilled with the idea. That's so sweet of you, she'd said. Marcus is going to be so excited. During that trip, they were affectionate and playful in ways that should have made me uncomfortable, but didn't because of the gay best friend shield. They'd share a lounge chair at the pool. They'd dance together at clubs. They'd take selfies together constantly, posting them on social media with captions about their bestie and how much fun they were having. I took most of those photos, by the way. I was literally documenting their affair, thinking I was just being a good friend and helping them capture memories. Looking back, there were so many signs that Marcus wasn't actually gay, or at least wasn't exclusively attracted to men. But I'd been so convinced by his performance that I explained away everything that didn't fit. Red flag 1. I never actually saw Marcus with a man romantically. He talked about dates, about guys he was interested in, about the challenges of gay dating. But in 3 years, I'd never met any of these men. Never saw him at a bar or restaurant with a date. Never was introduced to a boyfriend. When I mentioned this once to Sarah, she said, Marcus is really private about his relationships. He doesn't like to introduce people to his friends until it's serious. Red flag 2. The dates Marcus talked about always sounded vague and generic. I went out with this guy last night, and he was so boring. He'd say, but he never had specific stories, never showed us pictures, never had funny or memorable anecdotes about these supposed dates. Red flag 3. Marcus was always available, weirdly available. If Sarah wanted to hang out, Marcus could always make time. Even on Friday and Saturday nights, when supposedly single gay men in the city would be out at bars or clubs, Marcus was always free to come over or meet up with Sarah. Red flag for his gay behavior was almost ... theatrical. It was like he'd watched every stereotype about gay men and was performing them. The limp wrist, the high-pitched voice when he got excited, the excessive interest in fashion and design, the way he'd call everyone babe and hon and sweetie. Real gay men I knew weren't like that. They were just ... men. They had varied interests and personalities and ways of speaking. But Marcus was like a caricature, and I'd been too focused on being accepting and non-judgmental to notice how fake it all seemed. Red flag 5, the amount of time and money Marcus spent on my wife. He bought her expensive gifts, designer handbags, jewelry spa days. You deserve to be pampered, babe, he'd say. When I'd tried to reimburse him or tell him it was too much, he'd wave me off. Please, I love spoiling my bestie. She's worth it. What kind of friend drops thousands of dollars on gifts? Looking back, those weren't friend gifts. Those were boyfriend gifts. But I'd interpreted them as a gay man with disposable income who loved his best friend. Red flag 6. Sarah's appearance changed after Marcus came into her life. She dressed differently, more fashionable, more revealing. She wore more makeup. She got her hair done more often. She started working out regularly and lost weight. At the time, I thought she was just enjoying having a stylish gay friend who encouraged her to take care of herself. Now I realized she was dressing up for her lover, not her gay best friend. Red flag 7. Our sex life changed. Sarah became more ... adventurous. She wanted to try new things, had new preferences, seemed more experienced somehow. When I'd comment on it, She'd say she'd been reading articles or watching videos online about how to improve our intimacy. But now I wonder if Marcus was teaching her things. If she was learning what he liked and then bringing those preferences into our bedroom. The thought makes me sick. Red flag number 8. Sometimes, when the three of us were together, I'd catch looks between them. Quick glances, small smiles, inside jokes I wasn't part of. But I'd interpret these as just the closeness of best friends, not the intimacy of lovers. The day I came home early was completely unplanned. I had a 3-day work trip to Denver for a conference. Sarah had driven me to the airport on Thursday morning, kissed me goodbye, and told me she'd miss me. I'll probably hang out with Marcus this weekend, she'd said. Maybe go see a movie or something. Have fun, I'd said. I'll text you when I land. The conference was boring, the same presentations and networking events I'd been to 100 times. By Saturday afternoon, I was tired and ready to be home. Then I got an email that the Sunday sessions had been canceled due to the keynote speaker getting sick. I called Sarah to tell her I was going to catch an earlier flight home, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I texted her to no response. I figured she was busy with Marcus or had her phone on silent, so I just booked the flight and planned to surprise her. I landed around 3 p.m. on Saturday instead of Sunday evening. I grabbed an Uber home, feeling excited about the extra day with my wife. Maybe we could order in, watch a movie, just enjoy a relaxing evening together. The apartment was quiet when I opened the door. Sarah's keys were on the table by the entrance, so she was home. Her phone was there too, which explained why she hadn't seen my messages. That's when I heard sounds from upstairs. At first, I couldn't quite identify them. Then it became clear someone was in our bedroom with my wife, and they weren't just talking. I'll never forget the walk up those stairs. Every step felt impossible. My body knew what I was going to find before my brain wanted to accept it. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The bedroom door was slightly open. The sounds were unmistakable now. I stood outside for just a second, gathering the courage to look, hoping against hope that I was wrong, that there was some other explanation. I pushed the door open. Sarah was in our bed, the bed we'd picked out together, where we'd slept next to each other for years, with Marcus. They were naked, wrapped around each other, so focused on what they were doing that they didn't notice me at first. I must have made a sound, a gasp or a grunt or something, because Sarah suddenly looked toward the door. Her eyes met mine. I watched her face cycle through confusion, recognition, and then pure terror in the span of a second. "David," she said, pulling the sheets up. "You're home early." That was her first response. Not "I'm sorry" or "I can explain" or even panic. Just stating the obvious, I was home early. Like this was a scheduling mix-up. Not my wife having sex with her supposed gay best friend in our marital bed. Marcus scrambled to cover himself, looking between Sarah and me with an expression of guilt and fear. His voice, when he spoke, was different, deeper, more masculine. Not the high, slightly feminine voice I'd always heard from him. "Man, I'm sorry. He started, get out," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Flat, cold, "Get dressed and get out of my house." "David, please," Sarah started, but I held up my hand. I said, "Get out, both of you." Now, I turned and walked out of the bedroom, down the stairs, and out of the apartment. I couldn't be there. I couldn't watch them get dressed, couldn't hear whatever excuses or explanations they were going to try to give. I just needed to be anywhere else. I ended up walking for hours, my phone buzzing constantly in my pocket with calls and texts from both of them. I didn't look at it. I just walked until it started getting dark and I realized I had nowhere to go. I eventually went to my brother's place. He and his wife had just finished dinner, and they immediately knew something was wrong from the look on my face. "David, what happened?" my brother Mark asked, guiding me inside. I told them everything. About coming home early, about finding Sarah and Marcus together, about the 3 years of being lied to and manipulated. Mark's wife Jennifer actually started crying. She was so upset on my behalf. That's one of the most fucked up things I've ever heard," Mark said, which pretty much summed it up. "They let me crash on their couch and told me I could stay as long as I needed." That night, lying in the dark in my brother's living room, I started going through my phone. Dozens of missed calls from Sarah, even more text. A few calls from Marcus too. I read through Sarah's messages. "David, please come home so we can talk. I know you're angry, but please let me explain. This isn't what it looks like. David, I love you. Please just hear me out. Where are you? I'm worried about you. It isn't what it looks like." I'd walked in on her having sex with another man in our bed. What exactly was there to misunderstand? Marcus had texted to Man, I'm so sorry. Please let me explain what's been going on. It's complicated. Complicated. That was one word for it. I didn't go back to the apartment for 3 days. I stayed with Mark and Jennifer, went to work like a zombie, ignored all calls and texts from Sarah and Marcus. My brother wanted me to just text Sarah and tell her to move out, but I knew I needed to face them eventually. I needed to understand what had happened, how long it had been going on, how they'd managed to deceive me so completely. On Tuesday evening, I finally went back to the apartment. Sarah was there, looking like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were red and puffy, her hair was a mess, and she looked genuinely devastated. "David," she said when I walked in, "thank God I've been so worried." "We need to talk," I said flatly. We sat in the living room, not on the couch where Marcus used to sit with us, but in separate chairs facing each other. The distance felt appropriate. "Is he actually gay?" I asked. That was the question that had been burning in my mind for 3 days. Sarah looked down at her hands. "No. Was he ever gay? Or was that entire thing a lie?" "It was a lie," she said quietly. "He's straight. He's always been straight." The confirmation somehow made it worse. It meant every single interaction I'd had with Marcus for 3 years had been a performance. Every flamboyant gesture, every feminine mannerism, every story about dates with men, all of it had been carefully constructed to deceive me. "How long?" I asked. "About 2.5 years, she admitted. 2.5 years out of our 3 years of marriage. She'd been cheating on me with Marcus for the majority of our marriage. So basically, since I met him, not right away," she said, "like that made it better. We became friends first, started working together, and then things just developed. Things just developed. I repeated, things don't just develop. Sarah, you made choices. You chose to cheat on me. You chose to bring him into our home. You chose to lie to my face every single day for 2.5 years. She started crying. I know I did. "And I'm so sorry, David. I never meant for this to happen." "Did you love him?" I asked. She hesitated, which told me everything I needed to know. "I love you both," she finally said, "in different ways." "That's not how marriage works," I said. "You don't get to love to people. You made a commitment to me." "I know," she sobbed. "I know I did. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to lose either of you." Over the next few hours, Sarah told me everything. She and Marcus had met at work about 6 months after we got married. They'd been assigned to a project together and had gotten close. At first, it really had been just friendship. But then they'd started developing feelings for each other. Instead of ending it or telling me, they'd come up with the gay best friend plan. Marcus had suggested it. Actually, he'd told Sarah that if I thought he was gay, I'd never suspect anything. And they could see each other openly without arousing suspicion. It was supposed to be temporary, Sarah said. We thought maybe we'd figure things out, that the feelings would go away, that we could go back to just being friends. But the feelings didn't go away. They got stronger, and the deception got deeper. Marcus started performing being gay whenever I was around. He studied mannerisms, speech patterns, stereotypes. He made up stories about dates and relationships. He created an entire fake identity just to get close to my wife. He's actually really masculine, normally, Sarah said. The whole gay thing was completely an act. This made it so much worse somehow. It meant Marcus had been laughing at me for years. Every time he called me hun, every time he acted flamboyant, every time I defended him as Sarah's harmless gay friend, he'd been mocking me. "Did he ever actually work at your company?" I asked. She shook her head. "He worked in the building next door. We met at a coffee shop between our offices. When I introduced him to you, I said he was my coworker, and you just assumed. We never corrected you. So that was a lie too. Marcus didn't work with Sarah. They had just met and started an affair, and then constructed this elaborate story to hide it. What about all the times he was here? All the dinners, the TV nights, the trips?" I asked. "Those were all real," she said. "We wanted to spend time together, and this was the perfect cover. You never suspected anything because you thought he was gay. We could be affectionate, spend time together, even go on trips, and you just thought we were best friends. I thought about all the times I'd left them alone in our apartment. Times I'd gone to the gym or run errands or worked late. Times I'd trusted them completely because why wouldn't I? Did you ... I could barely ask. "Did you sleep with him in our bed?" She didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. "Sarah, yes," she whispered. "When you were traveling for work, or sometimes during the day when you were at the office, I'm so sorry I felt sick, our bed, the place where we'd been intimate, where I thought we were building our marriage, she'd brought her lover there multiple times. A few days later, I agreed to meet Marcus. Not because I wanted to hear his side or give him a chance to apologize, but because I needed to see him without the performance. I needed to see who he really was. We met at a coffee shop far from our neighborhood. When Marcus walked in, I barely recognized him. He moved differently, confident, masculine. He was dressed in jeans and a regular t-shirt, not the fashionable, slightly flashy clothes he'd always worn around me. And when he spoke, his voice was completely different. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, sitting down. His voice was deep, normal, nothing like the higher, more animated voice I'd always heard. "Who are you?" I asked. "Because you're clearly not the person I thought I knew." He had the decency to look ashamed. "I'm sorry, man. I know that doesn't mean anything, but I am. What we did to you is fucked up," I asked. "Why the gay thing? Why not just, I don't know, have a regular affair?" "Because you never would have let me into your life otherwise," he said. "Straight male friends spending that much time with your wife. You would have been suspicious. But a gay best friend? That was perfect. You welcomed me in. You trusted me. You never saw me as a threat. That's sociopathic," I said. "I know," he admitted. "I know it is." At first, it was just supposed to be a way for Sarah and me to spend time together while she figured out what she wanted. But then it became this whole thing, and we couldn't figure out how to end it without destroying everything. "So you just kept lying?" "Yeah," he said. "We kept lying, and I got used to it, being part of your life, even in this weird, fake way. Sometimes I'd forget I was supposed to be gay and would have to catch myself. I thought about all the times we'd hung out, all the conversations we'd had, all the moments I'd considered him a friend. None of it had been real." "Do you love her?" I asked. He was quiet for a long time. "Yeah," he finally said. "I do. Then why not just tell me? Why not let her leave me honestly instead of making a fool of me for years?" "Because she didn't want to leave you," he said. "She loved you too. She wanted both of us." I was willing to accept that if it meant I got to be with her at all. The divorce was messy and painful. Sarah fought it at first, saying she wanted to work on our marriage, that she'd made a mistake, but we could get past it. She suggested couples counseling, promised to cut off all contact with Marcus, begged for another chance. But I couldn't do it. Every time I looked at her, I saw them together. Every time I thought about our marriage, I remembered that most of it had been a lie. She'd brought her lover into our home, introduced him as her gay best friend, and watched me welcome him with open arms while they both laughed at how gullible I was. The worst part was dealing with friends and family. How do you explain this situation? My wife was cheating on me with her gay best friend, who wasn't actually gay. Sounds like a bad sitcom plot. Not Hale life. Some people didn't believe me at first. They'd met Marcus, had seen him act flamboyantly gay, and couldn't reconcile that with him being straight and sleeping with my wife. "Are you sure?" one friend asked. "Maybe he's bisexual?" But no, he wasn't bisexual. He was straight. The entire gay persona had been a calculated performance designed to get close to my wife while keeping me When word got around about what had happened, people who'd known Marcus were shocked. Some of our mutual friends felt betrayed too. They'd developed friendships with him based on a completely fake identity. I told him about my experiences coming out. One gay friend said to me, clearly hurt, I shared personal, difficult stories with him, thinking he understood, and he was just pretending the whole time. That's fucked up. Marcus had used gay stereotypes and exploited people's trust not just to deceive me, but to integrate himself into our entire social circle. He'd commodified gayness as a disguise, which felt particularly offensive. After our divorce was finalized, I heard through mutual friends that Sarah and Marcus stayed together for about 6 months before breaking up. Apparently, once the thrill of the secret affair was gone and they had to actually be in a real relationship, they realized they didn't work that well together. The sneaking around was exciting. Sarah reportedly told a friend, but actually being together normally, it wasn't the same. Part of me felt vindicated by this. They'd destroyed my marriage, humiliated me, and lied for years. And it turned out their great love affair couldn't even last once it was out in the open. Marcus apparently moved to another city. Word got around in our social circle about what he'd done, and he became persona non grata pretty quickly. No one wanted to be friends with someone who'd orchestrated such an elaborate, cruel deception. Sarah stayed in our city, but had to rebuild her social life from scratch. Most of our mutual friends sided with me, and the ones who tried to stay neutral eventually drifted away from her anyway. People don't like being associated with that level of betrayal. I heard she dated a few people, but nothing serious. I imagine it's hard to build trust with someone new when you've demonstrated such a capacity for long-term deception. I don't wish bad things on either of them, but I also don't feel sorry for them. They made their choices. They have to live with the consequences. The hardest part of moving forward wasn't getting over Sarah or even the betrayal itself. It was learning to trust my own judgment again. For 3 years, I'd been completely fooled. I'd looked at Marcus and seen a gay man being affectionate with his best friend. I'd looked at their closeness and seen friendship. I'd looked at all the time they spent together and seen nothing suspicious. How do you trust yourself again after being so completely wrong about something for so long? I went to therapy, which helped. My therapist pointed out that I wasn't wrong to trust people who presented themselves as trustworthy. Marcus and Sarah had constructed an elaborate, sophisticated lie that was designed specifically to exploit stereotypes and assumptions. You saw what they wanted you to see, my therapist said. That's not a failure of judgment on your part. That's them being good at deception. But it didn't feel that way. It felt like I'd been an idiot, a blind, trusting fool who'd believed everything he was told. Dating again was terrifying. How could I trust anyone when I'd been so wrong about my own wife? Every time someone told me something about themselves, I'd wonder if they were lying. Every time a woman I was seeing had male friends, I'd feel anxious and suspicious in ways I'd never had before. This is going to sound paranoid, I told my therapist, but how do I know if someone is really who they say they are? You don't, she said. You never really know for sure, but most people are honest. What happened to you was unusual and extreme. You can't let one experience with manipulative people make you suspicious of everyone. She was right, but it was hard advice to follow. It's been almost 2 years since I walked in on Sarah and Marcus. I've moved to a new apartment, built a new life, and slowly started to trust again, both others and myself. I'm dating someone now. Her name's Rachel, and she's nothing like Sarah. She's direct, honest, almost brutally, so sometimes she doesn't have a lot of close male friends, which I hate to admit makes me feel more comfortable, even though I know that's not fair. When I told Rachel my story about Sarah, about Marcus, about the 3 years of deception, she was horrified. That's one of the cruelest things I've ever heard, she said. They didn't just cheat on you. They made you complicit in your own betrayal. They made you welcome the person your wife was cheating with into your home. That's psychological torture. She was right. That's exactly what it had been. And hearing someone else articulate it helped me understand that my feelings of humiliation and violation weren't overreactions. What they did was genuinely terrible. Rachel has been patient with my trust issues. When I get anxious or suspicious about things, she doesn't get defensive. She understands where it comes from and provides reassurance without making me feel crazy for needing it. I'm never going to make you feel the way they did, she told me once. And if you ever have concerns or questions, I want you to tell me. Don't let things fester because you're afraid of seeming jealous or controlling. That permission to voice concerns without judgment has been healing in ways I didn't expect. One of the most valuable lessons from this nightmare was understanding how stereotypes and assumptions can be weaponized against you. Marcus knew that if he performed stereotypical gay mannerisms, I would automatically categorize him as non-threatening to my marriage. He exploited my desire to be open-minded and accepting. There's an irony to this. I prided myself on being progressive, on not being the jealous husband who's suspicious of every male friend his wife has. I'd thought my willingness to welcome Marcus into our lives made me enlightened. But Marcus and Sarah turned that openness into a weapon. They knew that any suspicion I might have had would be quashed by my own desire not to seem homophobic or insecure. You can't question a gay man's friendship with a woman without looking like a jealous asshole, my brother Mark pointed out. They use your own values against you. I've had to reconcile this. I still want to be accepting and open-minded. I still want to support LGBTQ friends and not let prejudice or stereotypes influence how I see people. But I've also learned that trust should be earned through consistent behavior, not given automatically based on how someone presents themselves. It's a difficult balance. I don't want to become cynical or suspicious of everyone, but I also can't be as naively trusting as I was before. What Sarah and Marcus did had ripple effects beyond just me. Several of our mutual friends told me afterward that they'd felt uncomfortable with Marcus at times, but hadn't said anything because they didn't want to seem homophobic. There were moments when he seemed off, my friend Lisa said, like he was trying too hard, But I felt guilty for even thinking that. I didn't want to stereotype or be judgmental. Another friend, Dan, admitted he'd once seen Marcus drop the act for just a second. We were at a bar, and Marcus thought no one was watching. His whole demeanor changed. He stood differently, talked differently. Then he saw me looking and immediately went back to the flamboyant thing. I convinced myself I'd imagined it. These conversations made me realize that I wasn't the only one Marcus had fooled. He'd fooled our entire social circle, and people had suppressed their own instincts because they didn't want to be seen as prejudiced. This has implications beyond my personal story. Marcus's deception exploited people's desire to be accepting and supportive. He weaponized political correctness, essentially using it as a shield to get away with terrible behavior. I've thought a lot about whether I should have been more skeptical, but I don't think the answer is to be suspicious of LGBTQ+ people or to question everyone's identity. The answer is to trust behavior over identity, to pay attention to what people do, not just what they claim to be. In hindsight, there were things that should have made me question Marcus's story, even without suspecting an affair. These weren't about him being gay or not. They were about inconsistencies in his story and behavior. For example, Marcus claimed to be from Chicago, but he didn't know basic things about the city. When I mentioned neighborhoods or landmarks, he'd be vague or would quickly change the subject. I should have noticed that. He claimed to have gone to Northwestern University, but when I asked him about professors or campus life, he had generic answers that could have come from Wikipedia. I should have noticed that, too. He said he worked in marketing, but when I'd talk about my friend who worked in marketing and mentioned specific campaigns or industry news, Marcus seemed unfamiliar with it all. Another red flag I missed. These weren't signs that he was sleeping with my wife. They were signs that he was lying about basic facts of his life. And if he was lying about those things, what else was he lying about? I wish I'd paid attention to these inconsistencies. Not because they would have definitely led me to the truth, but because they might have made me more cautious about trusting him so completely. About a year after our divorce was finalized, Sarah reached out asking if we could meet for coffee. She wanted to talk, to explain herself more fully, to apologize properly now that some time had passed. I almost said no. What could she possibly say that would make any of this better? But my therapist encouraged me to go, saying it might provide closure. We met at a neutral coffee shop downtown. Sarah looked different, older, more tired. The confidence and energy she'd had during our marriage was gone. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. "I know you didn't have to." "What do you want, Sarah?" I asked, not unkindly, just tiredly. "I want you to know that I've been in therapy," she said, trying to understand why I did what I did, why I was capable of hurting you so badly. "And what did you learn?" "That I'm more broken than I thought I was," she said with a sad smile. "My therapist thinks I have intimacy issues. I couldn't handle the vulnerability of being fully committed to one person. So I split my emotional needs between two people. That way, neither of you could really hurt me, except we both could," I pointed out. "And you lost both of us." "I know," she said. "And I deserved to. What I did was unforgivable." We talked for about an hour. She told me that the guilt had been eating her alive, that she couldn't sleep, that she'd ruined every relationship since because she couldn't trust herself not to do it again. "I look at what I did to you, and I don't recognize myself," she said. "I became a monster. I lied to your face every day. I brought my lover into our home and watched you be kind to him. I let you defend our friendship to other people. I let you feel secure in our marriage while I was destroying it from the inside. Why did you do it?" I asked. "If you loved Marcus so much, why not just leave me?" "Because I loved you too," she said. "I know that sounds impossible, but I did. I loved my life with you. I loved being your wife, and I couldn't imagine giving that up. So you wanted both." "Yes," she admitted. "I wanted both, and I convinced myself that what you didn't know wouldn't hurt you, that I could make you happy while also being with Marcus, that I could have everything. That's not how life works," I said. "I know that now," she said. "But at the time, I really thought I could pull it off. I thought I was being smart, strategic. I thought the gay best friend cover was genius. I didn't think about how cruel it was. I didn't think about what it would do to you if you found out. Did you ever feel guilty?" I asked. "When you were lying to my face, did it ever bother you?" She was quiet for a long time. "Yes and no," she finally said. "Sometimes I'd feel terrible. I'd look at you being so trusting and kind, and I'd feel like the worst person in the world. But then I'd rationalize it. I'd tell myself that you were happy, that you didn't know, so it wasn't really hurting you. I'd tell myself that lots of people have affairs and their spouses never know, and everyone's fine." "But everyone wasn't fine," I said. "I wasn't fine. I just didn't know I wasn't fine." "You're right," she said. "And I'm so sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know it doesn't undo the damage. But I needed you to know that I regret everything. That if I could go back and make different choices, I would." I believed her. She did seem genuinely remorseful. "But remorse doesn't undo betrayal. I hope you figure yourself out," I told her as we were leaving. I hope you learn to be honest with people, to not destroy them for your own benefit. But I can't be part of that process. This is the last time we're going to see each other. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I understand. Thank you for giving me this closure, even though I didn't deserve it. We went our separate ways. I felt lighter afterward, like I'd finally closed that chapter of my life. About 6 months after meeting with Sarah, I got a long email from Marcus. He'd apparently also been in therapy and wanted to apologize more fully than he had at the coffee shop. The email was long, several pages, and detailed. He explained his background, his relationship history, his patterns of manipulation. He admitted that pretending to be gay wasn't just about accessing Sarah, it was about power and control. I liked manipulating people, he wrote. I liked knowing that I was getting away with something. Every time you defended me as Sarah's harmless gay friend, every time you welcomed me into your home, I felt powerful. I felt like I was smarter than everyone else. He explained that he'd done similar things before, lied about fundamental aspects of his identity to manipulate people and situations. Being gay with me was just the most elaborate version of a pattern he'd had his whole life. I'm a liar, he wrote. A compulsive, manipulative liar who enjoys deceiving people. And I'm truly sorry for what I did to you. You didn't deserve any of it. The email ended with him saying he was working on himself, trying to understand why he was this way, trying to become a better person. He said he didn't expect forgiveness and wasn't asking for it. He just wanted me to know that he understood the magnitude of what he'd done. I read the email twice and then deleted it. I appreciated the honesty and the self-awareness, but I didn't need to carry his guilt for him. His journey toward becoming a better person wasn't my responsibility or my concern. As terrible as this experience was, it taught me valuable lessons about trust, about stereotypes, about human nature. I learned that people are capable of sustaining elaborate lies for years if they're motivated enough. Sarah and Marcus maintained their deception for 2.5 years without slipping, without getting caught, without apparently feeling enough guilt to stop. I learned that good people can do terrible things. Sarah wasn't evil. She wasn't a monster in all aspects of her life. She was capable of love and kindness and generosity. She just also happened to be capable of sustained, cruel deception. People are complex and contradictory. I learned that trust is both essential and dangerous. You can't have real relationships without trust, but trust also makes you vulnerable to being hurt by people who don't deserve that trust. I learned that my instincts are worth listening to. There were moments throughout those 3 years when something felt off, when I had a flicker of doubt or concern. I dismissed those feelings because I didn't want to seem jealous or insecure. I should have paid more attention. And I learned that recovery is possible. 2 years ago, I thought I'd never trust anyone again. I thought the humiliation would never fade. I thought I'd carry this betrayal with me forever in a way that would poison all future relationships. But I was wrong. Time didn't heal everything, but it helped. Therapy helps. Building a new life helped. Meeting someone trustworthy helped. And now, while I still carry the scars of what happened, they don't define me anymore. I'm 38 now, living in a different city, with a career I actually love and a relationship that feels healthy and honest. Rachel and I have been together for about a year, and we're talking about moving in together. Are you sure? She asked when I brought it up. Given what happened last time you lived with someone, I appreciated that she understood my hesitation, but I also knew I was ready. I'm sure, I told her. What happened with Sarah taught me what red flags to watch for, and you haven't shown any of them. You're honest, you're consistent, you're exactly who you present yourself as. I promise I will never pretend to be gay to cover up an affair, she said with a smile, trying to lighten the mood. I laughed. That's a very specific promise, but I appreciate it. We talk openly about my past and my lingering trust issues. Rachel has met my friends and family. She's integrated into my life in transparent, healthy ways. There are no secrets, no elaborate cover stories, no performances. It's almost boring compared to the drama with Sarah and Marcus. And boring is exactly what I need. People often ask me which betrayal hurt more, Sarah's or Marcus's. It's an impossible question to answer because they were so intertwined. Sarah's betrayal hurt because she was my wife. She'd made vows to me. We'd built a life together. Her cheating wasn't just about sex or romance. It was about breaking the fundamental promise of our marriage. But Marcus's betrayal hurt in a different way. He'd constructed an entirely fake identity, specifically to get close to my wife and fool me. He'd put on a performance for 3 years, never breaking character, never showing remorse, all while probably laughing at how gullible I was. And the two of them together had created this elaborate, cruel charade where I was the unwitting participant. They'd made me defend their friendship. They'd made me welcome Marcus into our home. They'd made me complicit in my own betrayal. That's what hurt most, the humiliation of it. Not just that my wife cheated, but that I'd been so thoroughly fooled, that I'd been so trusting and so blind. But I've learned to separate the humiliation from myself. Being deceived by skilled liars doesn't make me stupid or weak. It just makes me human. If you're reading this and you're dealing with a similar betrayal, whether it's a cheating spouse, a manipulative friend, or someone who lied about who they were, please know that you're not alone. Betrayal by people we trust is one of the most painful experiences humans can go through. It shakes our sense of reality, our ability to trust our own judgment, our faith in other people. But it's survivable. I promise you, it's survivable. You'll have moments where you feel stupid for not seeing the signs, where you replay every interaction looking for clues you missed, where you wonder if you'll ever be able to trust anyone again. Those feelings are normal. Let yourself feel them. Process them with a therapist if you can. Talk to friends and family who support you. Give yourself time and grace. And eventually, you'll realize that the betrayal says everything about the people who betrayed you and nothing about you. You weren't stupid for trusting. You were human, and they were the ones who violated that trust. You'll rebuild. You'll become more cautious. Yes, but hopefully not cynical. You'll learn to trust again, but more carefully. You'll find people who are worthy of that trust, and one day you'll realize that while the betrayal changed you, it didn't break you. You're still here. You're still capable of love and trust and connection. You're just wiser now. Sometimes people ask me if I ever got closure, if there was a moment when everything suddenly made sense and I could move on. The truth is, closure isn't a moment. It's a process. Every day, I get a little further from that afternoon when I walked in on Sarah and Marcus. Every day, the pain fades a little more. Every day, I trust myself and others a little bit more. Do I still think about what happened? Yes. Probably less than I used to, but it's still there. Sometimes I'll see two people who seem very close, and I'll wonder if there's more to their story. Sometimes I'll hear about someone's gay best friend, and I'll feel a flash of ... something. Not quite anger, not quite pain, just awareness. But these moments are becoming less frequent and less intense. The betrayal is becoming part of my history rather than my present reality. I've even reached a place where I can acknowledge that, as terrible as the experience was, it led me to where I am now. I'm in a healthier relationship than I was with Sarah. I'm more self-aware. I'm more careful about who I trust. I'm more attentive to red flags. Would I rather none of it had happened? Of course. But since it did happen, I'm grateful that I survived it and learned from it. There's one question I still think about sometimes. How many other people are out there like Marcus? How many people are maintaining elaborate false identities to manipulate the people around them? How many gay best friends aren't actually gay? How many stories that people tell about themselves are complete fabrications? I don't let this question make me paranoid. Most people are honest. Most identities are genuine. Most relationships are what they appear to be. But Marcus proved that some people are capable of incredible deception. And that's a sobering realization. I've learned to balance healthy skepticism with openness, to trust people while also paying attention to inconsistencies, to give people the benefit of the doubt while also listening to my instincts. It's not a perfect system, but it's better than being either completely trusting or completely cynical. So here's my question for all of you. If someone in your life turned out to be pretending to be something they're not, whether it's their sexuality, their background, their feelings, whatever, how would you handle it? And do you think there are signs we all miss because we're too trusting or too afraid to question people? Let me know in the comments. And if you've been through something similar, being deceived by people you trusted, I'm sending you strength. You're not alone, and it does get better.